In this video, we will be showing you how to replace your control arm ball joint on your Audi Q5, located behind your driver front knuckle. Let's get started with the job. Safely raise and support the vehicle so that the wheel is off the ground. To remove the hubcap, you will need to have a pick or a specialty tool to be able to fit into the groove to pull it out. To remove the lug bolts from the vehicle, we will need a 17mm socket. We will remove the first lug bolt, check it for inspection, and restart it back in a couple threads to prevent the wheel from falling off. As we remove the last bolt, hold the wheel so that it does not fall. To get started on removing our lower straight control arm, we're going to be starting by cracking free our 12mm triple square screw. That is also being counterheld by an 18mm nut on the other side. Taking a small ratchet, we're going to fit our triple square socket on the back end, an 18mm wrench or socket on the other side to counter twist. Now that we have it broken free, we can use a ratchet on the other side just to get it out. And there's the nut. And we'll leave this in here to give us support. Now we're going to break off the middle bushing that's being held together by an 18mm bolt and 18mm nut. Same method, 2 wrenches, and we're going to be counter twisting. We're going to keep this stud in place as well. Now we're going to take off the 16mm bolt. With it broken all the way free, we can now use a ratchet to get it out all the way. And there it is. Now we can use a mallet to tap out our bolts. That's one. Now when tapping out our triple square bolt, it will make contact with the boot. I like to lubricate the top of the bolt so that when it does try to make contact with the boot, it will slide through it nice and easily without ripping it. Now, since we cannot tap it out anymore, I'll be using a 1/4-inch stud driver. In my case, this is an extension. I'll put it on the outside of the tip of the bolt and gently tap it all the way out. And now it's nicely lubricated, we can push it all the way out. And there it is, with no damage to our boot. We can now use the pry bar to pull out our control arm. With this free, we can now focus on separating this knuckle. To separate the knuckle, you will either need a lot of pry bar strength to get in between and wedge it out, or in my case, I'll be using a special tool. This tool you can find at your local parts store. I'm going to be able to use it to wedge inside and twist to separate it. Twisting it gives it that much space. You can now leave the tool in for when you need to remove it and when you need to reinstall it. Tap out the ball joint. And there it is. As you can see, we now have our control arm at our table clamp. There is a T40 and a 21mm that are holding this ball joint control arm together. Using a 21mm to crack open the nut, we're going to use our T40 and a ratchet to counter hold it. Now that we have our nut free, we can focus on getting the ball joint out. Now to take out the ball joint, you could reuse your old nut. Bring it around a couple threads, use a traditional hammer to hammer it out. If you want to do it the safer way, you can use a stud driver. In this case, the size is an M14 by 1.5. You can use a hammer or an air hammer to get it out. Take it out. And there you have your ball joint. Now let's go ahead and install our new ball joint into our control arm. We're back over at our table clamp. Now for our new ball joint, we went from a T45 stud to a 6mm Allen stud. We're going to take our 21 and our 6mm Allen to counter turn it and tighten it down. Now let's torque our nut to the ball joint at 103 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and install our control arm. Remember, we do have our spacer in between the knuckle. This will make putting the ball joint into the knuckle a lot easier. Make sure it's seated all the way down. Now we're going to align the strut and our control arm into all the brackets. Using a rubber mallet, we're going to gently tap it into place. Now that we have it into place, I use a screwdriver. Using the screwdriver, I'll put it into the hole and line up the control arm with the sleeves provided. Now getting it through the hole, I'm going to push it and adjust it to be straight. Now that we have it lined up, we can go ahead and reinsert our 12mm triple square bolt. Remember, you do want to make sure that the bolt is at least a little lubed up. For extra protection, I lubed up the entire outside circumference of the bolt. Now I'm using a screwdriver and this mallet again to tap it in. And now we just must make sure that it's perfectly lined up. Now we're going to be doing the same thing with this midsection of our control arm, doing our best to get it into the position that we need it to be. We got the screwdriver all the way through. So now we can swap places with the screwdriver. You can now use our stud to make it through. Now that we have both of our bolts in place, we can go ahead and insert both of our 18mm nuts on each. This 18mm nut with the washer on it, the extra big washer, goes with the triple square bolt. And with our other nut that has a smaller washer, that goes up against the bolt that's for the strut. Start them both by hand to prevent the cross threading, and we can tighten them down. Let's go ahead and snug those bolts up. Now let's remove the separator. After removing the separator, let's install our 16mm bolt. Start it in by hand. Once you get it started, we can work it in. Remember, every time that you torque anything related to the suspension, you will need to have the vehicle at ride height. In this scenario, we are using a jack. Starting here, our first bolt is going to be torqued down at 29 foot-pounds. Moving on to our center bolt, the torque for this is going to be 66 foot-pounds. We're going to want to counter twist it again. After that 66 foot-pounds, you're going to want to turn it an additional 90 degrees. Starting from this angle, we're going to rotate it all the way up. Moving on to our last triple square bolt, we're going to counter hold it and torque it down to 51 foot-pounds. After this, it will take an extra 180 degrees of rotation. Release the pull jack to take the stress off the suspension. Now let's install our wheel. I will be using this 17mm socket to get it started by hand. Doing this will prevent the wheel from falling off. Now install the rest by hand. Now snug them down in a star form pattern. Now with our wheels safely on the ground, let's torque our lug bolts to 103 foot-pounds in a star form pattern. After torquing the lug bolts, we will be reinstalling our hubcap. On your rim, you will see that you have 2 grooves that allow for your hubcap to slide into. On the inside of the hubcap, you will notice that you have 1 tab, and you will also have a hole. If the tabs are broken off, the easiest way you can always do this is by aligning the hole in between the 2 tabs on your rim. Now, of course, after replacing any suspension components, be sure to take your vehicle down for a road test all the way down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.